Hi all, welcome to my channel. My name is Brittany. I'm a cut flower gardener in Garden Zone 6A in Hudson Valley, New York. So today I'm going to be talking about the winter sowing method. If you want stronger seedlings without grow lights or hardening off, winter sowing definitely might be your new favorite method. It's very simple and easy. I know personally as a mom of two that I really appreciate anything that saves me time out in the garden, and this certainly will. So, I really want to break this video out into 5 simple parts so it's easy to digest for you. But part one is what is winter sowing and why it works. Part two will be the materials that you'll need to get started with winter sowing. And then part three will be, how to time planting your seeds using the winter sowing method. And then part four will be exactly which seeds I personally plan to plant out and when. And then part five will be the actual winter sowing process step by step. So if one area of this interests you more than the other, feel free to go ahead and skip ahead. I'll put timestamps down below, but otherwise we'll go ahead and dive in. So we're going to dive into part one. What is winter sowing and why it works? So winter sowing is a method of sowing seeds outdoors in containers. They of course have to be clear so that they can get the light to germinate. But right here we have a couple options. I've also seen people use larger bins too. The seeds get to experience the natural cold and moisture and temperature swings, which helps break their dormancy. Then they germinate, when conditions are right, just like they would out in nature. So the seeds that really thrive the best with the winter sowing method would be perennials or cold tolerant annuals. The seedlings really get to grow short and sturdy, and you don't have to harden them off because they've already been exposed to the elements outside. So it's much more hands-off way to grow a lot of flowers. So as a mom of two, I'm really excited to utilize this method this year. I still start seeds indoors, especially ones that love warmer climates. But for me, I'm really excited to have a little bit more of a hands-off approach. We get plenty of rain and snow. I'll still check on them. So something to consider if you're in a drier climate, you might have to go out there and water your containers. But yeah, for me, I'm glad to hopefully be a little bit more hands-off in this process and see what happens in the spring. So that's pretty much part one. Now we'll dive into part two. So part two are really like the materials that you need for winter sowing. So for me, I'm going to be utilizing these clear, almost like milk jug looking containers. This had water in it, so I don't have to worry about washing it out. And here as well, I have another example. I'm also going to be utilizing potting soil. It is highly recommended to use potting soil versus like a seed starting mix because again, they're already outdoors in those elements. I'll be using also, a shovel to kind of utilize that, get that potting soil in. Also, you'll need some duct tape and then some labels. I will be using popsicle sticks and I do just have a Sharpie. I will say, I know that would obviously not withstand the elements outside. So I'm going to be putting them in a plastic sandwich bag too, so that the labels stay. And I know what I planted in the spring. And then of course you need your seeds. So really it's that simple. Like you just need those, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 things. And honestly, you can do all of this for under $5 per jug. So, highly recommend this method. It's really budget friendly. So I'm excited to try all of that. All right, so part three, we're going to dive into how to time seeds using the winter sowing method. So, when you're winter sowing, timing is really based on how many weeks before your specific last frost date. So you're absolutely going to need to know what your last frost date is in your specific garden zone. And you can quickly do this using Google, of course. Just type in your location and write garden zone last frost date, and it will go ahead and give you both of those pieces of the puzzle. So seeds that benefit, from cold stratification need to go out earlier, or ones that need more time. And then hardy annuals, you're going to want to plant those closer to spring. But you don't need perfect timing. Truly, I think nature kind of handles it for you. So for me, diving into what I'm planning to plant. So using the winter sowing method. So 8 to 12 weeks before last frost, I'm going to be planting out echinacea, yarrow, rudbeckia, lupine, lavender, columbine, salvia, and mahogany splendor hibiscus. These are definitely really reliable. Some of these really are perennials that grow naturally in my area and self-seed. So I know they're going to do really well with the winter sowing method in my specific garden zone. and then a midwinter sowing that I'm going to be doing. And again, this is closer to that 6 to 8 weeks before my specific last frost date. So find out what yours is. I'm going to be planting stock, phlox, dara, scabiosa, strawflower, chamomile, nigella, snapdragon, viola, and feverfew. And again, these usually germinate once temperatures start warming, but can also handle the frost just fine. But again, they're going to be a little protected too in their little mini greenhouses. And then late winter sowing for me, what I have planned to go out are bells of Ireland and marigold. And these are more closer to that 4 to 6 weeks before last frost date. So excited to take a stab at trying those via the winter sowing method. And then, part 5 is where we're going to really dive into what the winter sowing actual process is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the actual methods. This is step number 5. I'm going to sow my echinacea first. What I did was a popsicle stick again, and I labeled it, but then I put it inside of a plastic baggie so that it can withstand the elements outside. So come spring, when these are ready to go and be transplanted, I know what I planted, and it didn't like rub off or anything like that. So what you need to do first is create your little mini greenhouse. So again, this is just a water jug that I utilize. If you did use a milk or a juice jug, just make sure to wash it out good before you go ahead and use it. But I'm also using my flower shears. They're very sharp and just easy to do this project with. So I'm going to come in probably around halfway, make a cut, and then I'm going to cut around. You do want to leave a hinge so that when the weather warms up, you can go ahead and vent them when you need to on those warmer spring days. So we're going to go ahead and go all the way around. I'm going to go back on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way around. Sorry if this is like a horrible noise that I'm making. And then there you go. So now you can see you have like this hinge here to easily add in your soil. And then another thing I'm going to do is go ahead and go around the bottom and make sure you add some drainage. So I'm just going to use my shears and cut again some like holes throughout. Just a little bit. Maybe I should have done the drainage holes first, but on the next one, lesson learned. Yeah, so you're going to go ahead and add some drainage holes to the bottom. I'm going to add some over here too, on this side. All right, perfect. Yeah, so just super important. You want the water to be able to drain out of the container. This is a struggle. I hope you're, do this smarter than I did. But that should be good. I did about 1, 2, probably like 6 or 8 like drainage holes on the bottom with my shears. And then now what I'm going to do is I already added, it's nice to have some sort of a bin that you can kind of pre-moisten the soil in first. So that's what I have this for. I'm going to go ahead and I already have the soil in here. I'm going to go ahead and add some water in and kind of get it to a moist level. You don't want it to be sopping wet, but you definitely want to get it nice and moist to put into the container. So I'm going to use this, and we'll go ahead and add some water in. And then I'll just use my shovel to kind of mix it around. Okay, I wanted to just bring you in a little bit closer so you can see, again, you can see the drainage holes on the bottom. You want to make sure you have that hinge. And then now we're going to go ahead and add in our soil. I did go ahead and pre-moisten it with some water and mix it around in my big bin over here. So you can just go ahead. And I put this tablecloth down specifically so I'm able to make a mess. And I've spoke to this in the past with even my indoor seed starting. I can just really shake it off outside, and then I can go ahead and wash it. But I just put it down to protect my dining room table, and I am definitely not winter sowing outside in the elements because it is literally 5 degrees right now. So I'm just going to fill it all the way to the top. Again, you want it to be deep enough so that the roots can obviously, grow and expand in there. I'm just going to kind of pat it down a little bit. All right. And then do one more scoop. All right, kind of very full. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add in my seeds. So what I am growing for this specific jug is this Paradiso tail mix echinacea. And again, you're just going to want to refer to the back. So you can see here it says 8 to 10 weeks before last frost. So again, I calculated back from my specific last frost date. And then right here, you can see it says to sow 1/8 inch deep. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab a pen or something where I can kind of make that little indent in the soil, and then go ahead and start planting in these seeds. So give me 1 second. Perfect. So 1/8 is really not that deep. So let's see what the spacing says too. Spacing says, oh, pretty far apart. So I'm just gonna go ahead and poke some holes and kind of move around the container and see. I will probably sow at least 2 seeds per area, and you can always thin out down the road too. I find I'd rather plant more than not enough, and then I can, again, like I said, always thin them out down the road. So these are the seedlings. I'm trying to get that to focus there. They're pretty good size, so they're easy to see, but I'm going to go ahead and add them in. And again, I'm going to do a couple per hole that I carved out here. And then you're just going to cover them back up. So really not that deep that we're planting these. 1/8 is very, very small. Plant them back. Do 2 per. Go ahead, add them in, cover them up. All right, and then once they're in there, I'm going to save some of these. I'm going to get all of the whole packet in there right now. Next, you're going to want to use a mister or something to lightly be able to mist the flowers or the seeds in, I mean. So we're going to go ahead and give it a good spray down before we close the container. Again, the soil is pre-moistened, which is nice, but I want to make sure to really water them in good. So we're going to go ahead and go around quite a bit. All right. And then the final step, once you feel good about them being watered in, which I'm just going to rather overwater than underwater, to be honest. All right. We're going to go ahead and close it. So now this is going to be what creates your little greenhouse environment. So I'm going to go ahead and duct tape around the whole outside of the container. All right. It's not simple to do. There we go. I think I'll pre-cut strips in the future instead of battling the tape. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use my flower shears again and just cut that and seal it. So we're going to make sure it's nice and tight around the outside. There you go. So there you go. You are all set and we're watered in. We have this. Again, if you are in a drier climate, you're going to need to make sure you're watering these. I think we already have a snow in the forecast coming up, but also just kind of, you can go in here with your sprayer and really kind of do that, or you can just water a little bit directly in as well. So this is my first batch for winter sowing, and we'll kind of keep the trend going with the different seeds. And you want to plant them based on their desired depth. So just read the back of that seed packet and also make sure, you know, you're planting them according to your specific last frost date. But it's really that simple. So can't wait to see how these shake out in the spring. I'm really excited to add them to the garden. Okay, so I just set them out in a sunny area. These are actually my raised beds back here where they'll live afterwards too, once I transplant them in the spring. Something to keep in mind, of course, is as the weather warms up, I'll certainly be taking the tops off occasionally, keeping an eye on the weather to make sure that they don't get too warm or scorched because they are in essentially like a mini greenhouse. So just want to keep an eye on temperature once spring hits and occasionally, take the top off and give them that airflow. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what comes out in the spring. But again, all you have to do once you finish that, putting them together is just bring them out and set them in a sunny area. Be careful not to set them, too close to your house or somewhere where there's like an overhang and they won't get the moisture too. Because essentially all the rain and snow that comes in the future is what's going to be watering them and keeping them moist. I'll certainly, if I have a really long stint of no rain or snow, I'll come out here and give them some moisture. But really the natural elements kind of take care of it for you. So that's what makes winter sowing so easy and wonderful. I wanted to pop on and say thank you for joining me today to plant my seeds for spring using the winter sowing method. I'm really excited to see how they shake out in the springtime and happy to show you and give you an update then. If you can like and subscribe or even give me a thumbs up, that's super helpful as I am growing this channel. And another thing I'd love is if you could comment below, what are you winter sowing this year, or what have you had success with in the past? And note your garden zone too. I think it's just really helpful to grow with each other and learn from each other as we're navigating our flower journeys. But again, thank you for being here, and I hope to have you in the next one.